Are you thinking about getting into the Toronto property market, but you don't know how with these crazy bidding wars and these astronomical prices? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on getting into the Toronto housing market. And make sure you stay until the end, because I'm going to give you one bonus tip that a lot of people don't consider. So, let's get to it. Hi everybody, my name is Connie Sarvanandan and I'm a real estate agent and investor here in Toronto and the GTA. I grew up in Toronto and I love my city. So if you have any questions about buying or selling real estate in Toronto and the GTA, feel free to pop them in the comments below or give me a shout because we'll be sure to help you out. So buying property in Toronto right now is really challenging. There's a shortage of inventory and we've had this shortage for quite some time, but Q1 of 2022 has proven to be more active than ever before. And the pricing and the bidding wars are just nuts right now. So this video is really about giving you some other options for buying in Toronto. The first alternative is pre-construction. So what is pre-construction? Well, pre-construction is actually buying something before it's built. And typically in Toronto, when you see those high-rise buildings in downtown Toronto and throughout the city where they're building, you are buying those 3 to 4 years before they're actually built. So what is the good and bad of buying pre-construction? Well, the bad of buying pre-construction is it's not cheap. You're not going to get a deal. You're actually buying it at market value. And sometimes the builders build in what they think that the value is going to be 3 to 4 years down the road when it's actually complete. So that's the bad. The good is though that there's no bidding wars. The price is the price. And because it's not going to be built for 3 to 4 years, you actually put down your down payment, which there's a structure to it, but it's usually between 20 and 25% over a year. And then the rest of the time you're just saving up more money to put towards the purchase when it's actually complete. So that could be 3 to 4 years. So that's the good thing about it. The big thing when it comes to pre-construction that I would say is make sure you're working with a realtor who has platinum access to pre-construction, because that means that they're getting first access to those projects. And it also means that you're getting the first pricing, the first inventory. There's usually incentives, things like that. So that's what platinum brokerages get. And you're usually getting that before anybody else. So you're getting that over other agents. You're getting that over the general public. Platinum access does mean a lot of value when it comes to pre-construction. So that's the first option. Okay, so the second option for getting a property in Toronto is looking at properties that have not moved. So what does that mean? It means if a property is over a week old in Toronto and it doesn't have an offer date, then there's usually a reason for that. So in Toronto right now, things move in 24 hours if there's no offer dates, and if there is an offer date, they move on offer date night. So if it's beyond the offer date night or it's been sitting for more than a week and there has been no offer date, then you should go and check it out, and usually there's a reason for it. And I'm going to give you my own personal example. We bought a investment property that had been sitting on the market for over a month. And when we went and saw the property, it was in a fantastic location, but it was in its original condition from 1983. And so when we walked into the property, you know, it was immaculately kept, but it looked like 1983. And so we were able to pick up the property for actually under asking. And that was in October. And today it's already worth more. And we haven't, you know, even done any renovations. Our appraisal on it, we bought it in October. We got it in January, and our appraisal on the property for the bank was already higher than what we bought it in October for. So that's what I'm saying about looking at stuff that has been around for a long time and really making sure that, you know, understanding why it hasn't moved. Because sometimes the shiny objects aren't worth it, and you might be able to find a diamond in the rough. And if you're working with a realtor who has experience in this, they could tell you the things that are fixable and the things that are not fixable. So the things that are fixable are things like what we saw, which is just decorating stuff. The things that aren't fixable are location, lot size, things like that that are going to have an effect long term. But even those can be bargains if they haven't moved in this market. So that's the next option. Number 3 is expanding your search. So even though you might have a very specific area and very specific type of house that you want to get, you really want to start opening up to different areas and to different types of houses. What I can tell you that I've seen happen in Toronto is that areas that were less desirable 10 years ago are now highly desirable because of amenities coming to the area, transit, all of these things. So if you are starting in the core of Toronto, you should really consider areas that are up and coming, like parts of Scarborough, like parts near the airport. There's lots of areas that are undervalued right now compared to the rest of Toronto. So you want to make sure you expand that search. And then when it comes to housing affordability, you also want to expand your search as far as properties go. I know the ideal is often a detached or a semi-detached home, but there are great townhouses and great condos that are good alternatives that you should be looking at as well. So make sure you're expanding your search so that you get every opportunity to see properties, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to be surprised about what value you can get in some of those other categories that you may not have expected. So definitely expand your search if you want to try and get a home in Toronto. And now the next one. The next thing you should consider is just a shared space. So I'm seeing this a lot as people are seeing the prices go up and up. Everybody is looking for something with an additional income suite so that they can help offset their costs. So looking for properties that have basement apartments, or looking for a duplex where you could live in one and rent out the other, those are all options. The other thing is taking on a partner. So maybe, it's somebody that wants to invest in real estate and you would co-own it, or maybe it's your parents owning part of the property, or a relative. There are ways that you can set it up through your lawyer where you guys are clearly separate owners and you own a portion of that property. So I'm going to give you an example for myself. We owned a cottage property, and at the time we didn't want a cottage all for ourselves. So I bought the cottage with my brother and my sister, and we were all 1/3 owners on the deed. So it gave us a great opportunity to own a cottage and split everything 3 ways. And it was exactly what we wanted, because we didn't want to own a cottage all on our own and have the expenses of a cottage all on our own. So this was a great way of doing it. And when we sold, same thing, everything was split by 3. So that's definitely an alternative of buying property in Toronto. And then my final recommendation for getting properties in Toronto is finding off-market deals. So if you're working with a realtor, you want to see what other options that they have of finding off-market deals. So for myself, my brokerage has an internal website where we put properties that are off-market. A lot of times the seller will say, you know what, if I can get this price, I will sell it, because I don't want people coming through my house for various reasons, especially during COVID. Another opportunity is assignments. So assignments are when somebody has bought pre-construction, it's not actually made yet, and they want to sell it in between. That's called an assignment. And with assignments, a lot of times you cannot advertise assignments. So if your brokerage has assignment deals, that's a good way of also getting into the market, because those aren't necessarily properties that everybody sees and it is available to everybody. The other way of doing it is I'm part of different groups that, people will advertise exclusive listings and things like that may not be, available to everybody. So those are some hidden gems of properties that could be available but not necessarily known to everybody. And then finally, my bonus suggestion for finding property is actually not in Toronto, but outside of Toronto. So I think there is some opportunity that if you cannot afford in Toronto, that you can still get on the property ladder by getting a property outside of Toronto. So what does that mean? It might mean that you're actually moving to somewhere, but it might mean you're also you could be actually investing somewhere. So I have a client who couldn't afford anything in Toronto, so that client is looking at a property outside of the province, and they are going to look at renting it out. And then if the rental works out, then they might just keep it as a rental, or they're going to look at job opportunities outside of the province. And if it makes sense, then they'll move and buy outside of the province that way. So there are still ways of getting into the property ladder. Even if you want to live in Toronto, you could own an investment property outside of Toronto that is more affordable. So that's it. I hope these tips and tricks were helpful. I know the market is crazy and I know it can be very frustrating, but if you have any questions about buying or selling real estate in Toronto, I would love to help you out. I would love to answer any questions. Feel free to call, text, email, or WhatsApp, and we'll be sure to take care of you. Thanks for joining. If you have any comments, please mention them below. We love hearing from you so that we know what kind of videos you like to see. Thanks for watching again, and take care.